Welcome to Fox School of Business. Thank you so much for coming down, especially on a Friday evening, to participate in Women in Consulting panel discussion today, an event organized by Temple Consulting Club, Women's Entrepreneurial Organization, and the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Institute. This is our first time to organize an event of this scale, and it is a pleasure to see that we have a packed hall today. We are delighted to have all of you here. Before we welcome our panelists for the evening, I'm going to invite Professor Seaton to say a few quick words. Professor.
Thank you, Geeta, and Nee, and Sophia, and Anna, and all the other people that were involved with this. This is an incredible event. Those of you who may not know me, my name is Tony Seaton. I'm a professor in the Strategic Management Department, and I'm also the academic director of Temple University's Management Consulting Program. And so we're very excited about this event. We kicked off this program about 2 years ago to give all of you an opportunity to gain the skills necessary to be successful in the consulting industry. And so one of the things that's really become apparent to us in the last 6 months or so is just the incredible response we've received from the women in our university community who have expressed an interest in this. And you know, for many years, management consulting was a male-dominated industry. I don't think that's a surprise to a lot of people. But that's changed, although it doesn't mean that the challenges have gone away. And so I'm so delighted at the panel that's here this evening. You're going to hear from a multitude of different experiences and different firms and different skill sets and just different perspectives on what consulting is like and what it's like to be a woman in this industry. All the women you're going to hear from tonight are very successful in what they do, and they have a lot of wisdom to pass on. I hope you'll take advantage of the opportunity. I hope you will demonstrate to our guests how inquisitive Temple students can be, ask great questions, and then I hope that when the event is over, you'll enjoy some time with us networking and just getting to know one another a little bit better. So I'm going to ask Geeta to come back up and just introduce Araceli, who will be our moderator. I do have one last thing I almost forgot, though. As the academic director, I can't let it pass without saying that we do have classes. We do have a minor. We have a concentration, whether you're a graduate student, whether you're an undergrad student. We have programs to teach you management consulting. We've got 2 great courses in the fall that are coming up. And so if you have an interest, make sure you speak to your advisor in your respective program, and they can direct you to those courses. They're in the evening, which makes it a lot easier so you don't have to compete for morning classes. All right, with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Geeta. And again, have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor, for that empowering speech. We must believe that we are gifted for something, and that this thing, at whatever cost, must be attained, said Marie Curie, the first woman to win a Nobel Prize, the first person and only woman to win it twice, and the only person to win a Nobel Prize in 2 different sciences. Today, we are welcoming 5 successful consultants who embody this. They are here to discuss their journey and how they have made a mark in the consulting industry. So, let me welcome Professor Gunther at the podium to introduce our panelists and let the discussions begin. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Geeta. Thank you, everyone. This truly is a huge, huge success. I was really shocked when I was told that there would be over 157 attending. So very, very good. I will go ahead and kick it off because we are under a little bit of a time constraint. But I would like to go ahead and introduce Anwesha Dutta, and she is with PwC. And Anwesha worked in the healthcare management and technology transformation for over 14 years. She manages a group of about 4,000 individuals and has done that with PwC for quite some time now. We have Liz Bywater, who is also an author. She started her own consulting firm several years ago, which you'll share some of those insights with us in a bit. She did bring several copies of her book and some information on how to access the book. And we also have Jen Morelli. Jen Morelli is a senior manager with Grant Thornton, has been with Grant Thornton for several years. She specializes in something that we call company transformation. Really easy stuff, right? Change management and business process change. And this past fall, she actually joined the Fox School of Business as an adjunct professor in the management consulting program. So we welcome her for that. We also have Michelle Juliana. Michelle Juliana is with RSM. She is a principal in the technology and consulting practice with RSM. And she actually works to optimize business applications. So please help me in welcoming them. Okay. So our first question is, wait, I don't want to be the only one on the screen up here. Is there something else here? There we go. Oh, maybe this is what I was supposed to do. All right. Okay, well, now that that's done, okay, we're done with the slides. Good. Anyway, so we're going to start off with some questions, and the first question is actually going to be answered by each of our panelists. So the first question, can you please make sure that the mic is on? Is it turned on? You turned it on? Okay, it's synced and everything? Good. Okay, thank you. So the first question actually is really important. Why did you choose management consulting? And we'll go ahead and start off with Michelle.
Oh, that's supposed to be a simple answer, right?
Yes.
All right. Well, the answer is I didn't choose management consulting. Consulting for me became something that I evolved into as I developed through my career. And along the way, I became a subject matter expert in a particular area, which at the time was school business administration, so public sector administration. And a consulting firm ended up hiring me because of my expertise in that particular area. And that was quite a while ago, but it opened the window to the field of consulting, which made me realize there's just an unlimited number of opportunities that continue to evolve. And so I didn't actually choose consulting, but I stayed with it now for over 20 years, and I've loved every day of it because of the nature of those challenges. So,
Jen?
So she stole my answer. Shucks. But consulting actually chose me. It's really the only profession I've ever had. I graduated, did a small stint in academic advising, and then started consulting. And, I'll share my journey, I'm sure, in one of these other questions about how that actually happened. But I stay with consulting because of the challenges. Our job is to solve problems, and I love to solve problems, and I love to work with different people. I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up, but this gives me a great channel to experience different industries and different companies and different functions and departments, and hopefully one day I'll figure out what I really want to do.
Very good. Okay, Anwesha?
I actually chose consulting. I made a very conscious decision. I used to work for CHOP. All of you know Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And I wanted a wider range of experience and diverse perspectives from different healthcare institutions. And I've stayed with it. It's going on 10 years now. And to Michelle and Jen's point, the learning is the biggest part of this job. And the way you can make an impact in any industry and every single person you work with is humongous.
Liz?
So I came to consulting in a slightly different way. My background is as a clinical psychologist, and I was working as a psychologist in private practice for a good number of years. And what I discovered was that one of the things that people often came to me for help with was being more successful in their careers and in their work lives. And over the course of time, I had the opportunity to figure out how do I transfer my expertise in people and behavior and relationships to help people be more impactful in the workplace. And so my career really evolved over time. And at this point, I work with leaders, executives in the Fortune 500 and in multi-billion-dollar companies to help them be stronger leaders, better team members, more rewarded in the work they do, but really coming from a different sort of background with the psychology expertise.
Thank you. Okay, this question is for Jen, and it is, what do you think is the most significant barrier to female leadership?
Oh, boy. So this may be controversial a little bit.
Oh,
but,
we're all about that at this campus.
I really think, and I'll speak for me personally, I think it's almost self-inflicted in a way. I think I put up barriers for myself by, there's this big buzz around the imposter syndrome and all of these things, right? I don't think I'm good enough. I don't think I'm smart enough as my colleagues. And that is self-imposed, right? I know I'm smart. I know I'm hardworking. I know I'm all of those things. And when you speak up and when you give yourself a seat at that table instead of stepping back and letting someone else sit there, it opens up doors that you wouldn't think would be there because everything is a male-dominated world. But that's not the case. Diversity of thought and diversity in general is what makes, this world go around and what makes most businesses successful. So I choose to believe that the barriers are what we make and not necessarily what others put in front of us.
Okay. Thank you, Jen. All right, this next question is for Anwesha, and we would like to know, what was one of the toughest decisions that you've had to make, and how did that impact your life?
So a few years ago, as you probably know, especially in the Big Four world, it's a partnership model. So as you accelerate through your career, you are put on a partner track. And I was as well, and was very lucky to have been accelerated. But my daughter came into my life, and I had to make a decision. Am I going to spend 7 days on the road, or will I choose to be home for dinner every day and put her to sleep? So I had to make a conscious decision, and have recently taken a role of overseeing the technology consulting business at PwC, which gives me a very wide, much wider perspective, actually, than being just in healthcare consulting. So how has it made an impact? It has changed my life. I'm learning new things. I've pushed myself in new horizons. I would have never done so. That's number one. And number two is, yes, has it put me back a little bit from my peers? Absolutely, but I have no regrets. Sometimes you have to prioritize what's your most important job at that given moment of time.
Thank you, Anusha. Okay, the next question is for Michelle, and it has more to do with, can you share one of your greatest accomplishments and then one of your greatest setbacks?
So for me, one of my greatest accomplishments was becoming a partner at RSM, and I agree it's a choice, and that just happened to be the path that I took. It was a great accomplishment because I came up through a very unconventional path in RSM. I actually was in a selling role for quite a while, and then had to make a conscious decision to move into a project management and practice delivery role, which is a completely different path, and led to the combination of those characteristics to becoming a partner and leading our practice. So it was a great accomplishment and sort of a little unusual. So that was that. The biggest setback. To think about that one. Well, I guess, if you think about it from a sales perspective, so if you have any exposure to being in a selling role, you can do very well financially from being in sales. So it's a great career in consulting, or really in many different types of careers. And so moving into that practice delivery role actually was financially a setback for a few years. And so in the end, everything worked out, but it was a big decision, and I had to think long-term versus short-term.
Good, thank you. And this one is for Liz. And we would like to know, what is your most memorable consulting experience?
Well, that's a very tough question. I this might sound like a cop-out, but I have to say each of my experiences is unique and memorable
There are no
in their own
clients
way.
in the room, so you can go ahead and just
Yeah.
kind of express, yeah.
No, it's actually, I mean it genuinely. I learn something new with every single client opportunity. I meet new and interesting people. I learn about different industries, right? You're nodding, so you've experienced this as well. I mean, every experience is just as rewarding for me as it is for my clients. So, you know, one of the things that make me particularly happy is when I hear from clients that I've really made a difference for them. I've helped them be more effective. I've helped them navigate the stresses of the workplace. I've helped clients get good financial results as well as retain key people. That's the stuff that makes it especially rewarding.
Thank you. And this is for Anmesha. What is an interesting thing consultants do in a typical day that we don't know about?
I think building trust, you know, behind the scenes and in front of the client at all levels of the organization, from associates through partners, every single moment, they're building trust by not only solving problems, but developing some lifelong relationships. I mean, clients help us grow as people, as individuals. And a lot of folks think, you know, you're going in, you're delivering the project, checklist done. But it's a lot more about the client calling you back 10 years later and saying, hey, you know what you did for us way back when has made so much of a difference. And hey, by the way, do you think if my son can apply for an internship? That's the connection that you build for a lifetime.
Thank you. The next question is for Jen. Do you experience resistance when leading men?
No, I'm very lucky. I don't. I haven't run into that. I think the theme about what we do is, as I mentioned, solving problems and helping people. If you keep that goal in mind with our clients, we're there to support them through the opportunity, transformation, problem, whatever you want to call it. And if you keep that, you know, kind of the theme through your team, it's not personal. You're just there to get the work done, and whoever has the best idea or however you get to the best idea, and that's it.
Very good. Okay, and for Michelle, what is the biggest challenge for the next generation of women that are right behind you?
Well, really just to take advantage of the opportunity that you have. I think, and I agree, I really, all the way throughout my career, I haven't exactly thought of myself as a woman as something different. You know, we really interacted equally with the men on our team, and they didn't treat me any different, certainly. But I think today that's even much more so the case, as well as the fact that many firms like ours, I'm sure, and yours as well, have specific programs in place to promote not only the recruiting and retention of women, but putting women into leadership roles. So women have greater opportunities today than they ever have. And I think the challenge is to do the right things along the way to make sure you really optimize those and take advantage of them.
Thank you. For Liz, what important characteristics do you look for when you're hiring a consultant?
Well, I'm in a little different situation because I am a solo practitioner. So although I'm not necessarily hiring consultants, I always have to surround myself with a team. And so that team may be the person who's helping me with my social media and the person who is helping me with my website, and sometimes engaging with partners around a large project where I might need a little bit of additional help. The characteristics that are most important are to be trustworthy, reliable, pleasant to work with. That doesn't mean you have to be subservient to people, but to be somebody that others enjoy interacting with and having a conversation with. Those are really incredibly important business attributes. It's the personal stuff that I look for when I'm working with other people.
Okay, and then the next question is going to be for each of the panelists to answer, and then after that we can start taking questions from the audience. So start thinking about those questions. And are they going to just come up to the mic and pose the questions, or how are we going to do that? Yes? Okay. So get ready for that one, guys. But would you be kind enough to share your journey? And we can start off with Michelle.
Oh boy, I hope we got a lot of time. I already alluded to this a little bit earlier. I really didn't plan the whole thing. I will say it definitely evolved. I was a business major and an English minor. And my first job was in corporate banking, so I worked with middle market companies. and really learned a lot about working with a variety of middle market and growing companies and helping them get funding to grow their business. And I decided to make a little bit of a shift there and go more of the educational route for a while, which was something I had a deep passion and interest in working in education. And as I mentioned before, as I continued down that path, I was approached by a company in the technology industry who sold to school districts and governments, and through that became a consultant. They were looking to leverage my expertise in education to work with their clients in implementing technology systems for those organizations. After a few years of being in that role, I was recruited by RSM and into their technology consulting practice because of my experience implementing technology systems. And this took me full circle back to working with middle market companies. So over that period of time, it's been 17 years now, I've worked with a wide variety of both public sector and private sector organizations implementing technology solutions, bringing together all those experiences. And I really believe that's what's made me successful as a consultant, was the fact that I had a lot of experiences very early on working with a wide variety of middle market companies in our case, and then also working for about 5 or 6 years in government and being able to bring all those experiences together so that when I approach a client now, being able to draw on all of that different, the knowledge of the people and environments that they operate in. So that's kind of how my story unfolded.
Okay, so I have a psychology degree. That's it. And I told you guys that I graduated and I was an academic advisor for a school called Villanova. I lasted all of a year, and my brother happened to be working at a consulting firm down the road. So there's a training, an internal training job open. Do you want to do it? And I said, I don't know how to do that. Sure, let's try it. And some of you have probably heard this story, so I apologize. But I was booking hotel reservations and making copies, and I was like a training coordinator, and I learned a lot. It was great. I was there for probably 6 months, and one of the partners came up to me at a sales training, so partner of my firm, and said, "Are you happy?" I was like, "Yes, of course. Yes, I love this. I love this job. I love everything about it." Then happy hour comes, and he asked me again. He goes, "Are you happy?" And I was like, "No, I'm not." He said, "Well, do you want to be a consultant?" I don't know what that is. Tell me about it. I have no clue. And he said, well, he talked about kind of the work that he was in and what he specialized in. And I said, well, I don't know how to do any of that stuff. And he told me in something that I tell every student and new employee that I talk with, something that really stuck with me. He said, I've seen you work for the past 6 months. I've seen you close up, for the past couple weeks as we've planned this training. He said, you ask questions, you're engaging. People like to talk to you, to Michelle's point, this is point. He said, I can teach you all of those other things. I can teach you about the software systems we use. I can teach you about, how to build test scripts. That was the job at that time. And I said, all right, let's try it. So that was a Thursday, and on Monday, I was at my first client in Pittsburgh. And that was about 11 years ago. So that firm actually got acquired by Grant Thornton, which is where I am now, and I'm a leader in our organizational change management practice. And it's been a wild ride, but I wouldn't change it. There's been a lot of struggle. I did not have the education and the background that most people had. So, I had to learn a lot on the job, but I think it really made me the professional that I am.
Good. Anvesh?
I think I mentioned a little bit already that I transitioned from the industry. So educational background, I went to Drexel for an MIS and finance degree. Had no clue what I wanted to do with it, however. So when I came out of college, I got hired by this company called ECRI Institute, which is actually, think of them as a consumer reports for healthcare. So it's a very tiny company, and all they do is medical devices and healthcare technology. So that's how I got into healthcare. And then came the opportunity to work at CHOP, and it was more of a technology implementation role, and I realized that CHOP is Touchwood, a very privileged, very special place. I wanted to hire 5 people. They would arrive the next day, and I realized realized that healthcare cannot be like this. There has to be a wider variety, which is when PwC was growing their healthcare practice, and I chose to pick up that opportunity.
Good. Liz?
So, like Jen, I have a psychology background. I went to Cornell, and my undergraduate degree was in psychology. And then I pursued my PhD in psychology as well, and spent a lot of years, as I said, in private practice as a clinician. I have found those skills to be invaluable in the work that I do with senior executives. I have been in my own consulting firm for about 15 years now, and it was challenging at the beginning because I really didn't have the business background, and I really didn't know what a CEO was, or what succession planning and all the things that you guys are probably learning about in school were unfamiliar to me. I learned that quickly because if you have an inquisitive mind and you ask the right questions and you have learning agility, and those are some of the qualities that I'm sure all of you have and that are going to serve you very, very well, you learn rapidly. You form connections, you form relationships, you keep your ears open, you ask good questions, and you learn rapidly. And that's really what's brought me to where I am today, where I am working, according to my own schedule, create my own hours, have a very successful, again, touch wood business, feeling, very happy about it. And it has been a bit of a journey. You have to be adaptable as you go along the way.
Very good. Thank you. All right. I want those that have questions to line up. That way we don't waste time moving around. So let's go. No. Just come to the microphone. Line up. And anybody that has questions, line up right behind her, please. We're going to make this very efficient.
Right. Hello, everyone. My name is Caitlin. I am a junior in supply chain management. Pleasure to meet you all. I don't know if somebody touched on this already because I kind of came in a little bit late, but I really, really have a strong interest in consulting. But one of my main concerns was, how do you prioritize time with your career and then family, especially being women, having children and kind of being, I know for men it's a little bit easier because they don't really have to be there to feed them and all that stuff, but as a woman, I know it's a little bit harder. So how do you guys prioritize time with your careers to still be a mother and still be family oriented, but still kind of, go out, travel and work with clients and things like that? And kind of, do you feel like there's a little bit of disconnect from your families or so, or you kind of at a happy place?
Thank you. Yeah. You can go sit down. Thank you. Go ahead. Go ahead, Anvesh. Yeah. Go ahead, Anvesh.
So I think even folks who don't have kids, they still have a lot to balance in life, firstly. I mean, I felt that this challenge that you just described even before I was a mother. I think you have to, one, plan the best you can, but you cannot plan it all the way, like Michelle said. So you do have to take it day by day in some extent. But I also think, going back to Jen's point, it is very important to speak up and say, what is it that you actually want to do? So if you say, I want to be at X level, or I want to have these clients or this type of work by X date, you're kind of narrowing yourself down. But if you say, you know what, I am willing to broaden my criteria, you will be amazed at how much your clients will step up for you and say, it's okay if you're on site 2 days and the rest of the 3 days you're virtual, because we trust you that you'll get the work done. So I think it's all about speaking up and making the right things work for you. I'll also say that, for folks, who don't have kids, there's many other things happening in your life. And I have a dance school that I run on the side, and one of my students is actually in the audience today, and I run my own charitable foundation. So I feel pressed for time all the time. There is a disconnect. There's always a sense of guilt, but you have to get past that. And again, say, over the next 6 months, over the next year, what are the critical things I want to do for myself, for my clients, for my family? And it's really a matter of prioritizing that way.
Very good.
So first of all, congratulations on being the first person to stand up and ask a question. And come see me afterwards, because this book is for you. Slow down to speed up. And it addresses your very questions. And it's about work-life balance, but to the broader picture, it's about how do you protect time? Time is our most valuable resource. There are only 24 hours in any given day, and so many things to be done with those 24 hours. There's hopefully a little bit of sleep gets into that 24 hours, probably not so much for you guys. You'll get more over time. And family time and taking care of yourself and health and wellness and work. thinking about how do you protect time so that you are not rushing from activity to activity to activity and running out of energy and running out of enthusiasm is incredibly important. And so it's about setting your priorities and keeping your eyes really to what are your goals, taking things off your plate. If there are things that somebody else can help you with, ask for help. There are lots of different ways that you can approach protecting your time, but the more you can do that and be thoughtful about where and how you're spending time and energy, the more balanced you'll feel.
Thank you. Next question, please.
There was a common theme with you, with all of you, about trust. How is it that, one, you build trust, and like, for example, for like change management, there's a common theme where they are fearful about their jobs. How do you address that and still get them to help you?
Go ahead, Jen.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, and I'll take it in two parts because I think the theme about trust was really with our clients. And the one thing that I always remind myself when I'm going in and talking to a CEO or a CFO of a multi-billion-dollar company is he probably has a wife and kids, or she has a husband and kids and has to, do carpool and all the same things that most humans do, right? They're just like us, and that's kind of cliche, but it's true. And so in terms of building trust with clients, it's just having open dialogue. It's being accountable. It's doing what you say you're going to do. And if you can't, talking about that early and, all of those little things. In terms of building trust with, from a change management perspective with employees who may be going through a difficult time or a transition that they don't, want to go through, even as something as simple as a software implementation, right? Again, it's about the transparency and helping them understand the why behind anything that you're doing. Because we as humans, if you tell me to do something, the first thing that pops in my head, well, why, right? But a lot of companies just say, because I say so, because I say so. That doesn't cut it anymore, especially in our shifting workforce with the variety of generations that we have. Did that answer your question?
Yep. Okay. Thank you. Next question, please.
So thanks very much to the consultants who spent their Friday afternoon with us, and thanks very much to the organizers as well. So my question would be maybe a little bit controversial. So in tech companies, we heard about the misogyny scandals and sexism, unfortunately. And in your careers, has there ever been any point in which you faced in direct or indirect ways any sexism or misogyny, you took action and made a positive impact or a legacy that's still continuing, or have you seen any example like that?
Michelle?
Honestly, no. I guess I've been really fortunate. I've worked with some great organizations. I've worked for probably 6 different companies, and I haven't. So thanks for asking, though. It's a great question.
Yes and no. I haven't made any lasting impacts or anything like that. But I have been in those happy hours where it goes from happy hour to the strip club to the after-hour strip club to, those things, and they think it's perfectly fine to just continue to invite. And I'm in control of my decisions, and I'm in control of who I choose to associate with. I guarantee you I did not choose to associate or go to happy hour with those folks again. And I don't think they're still in our profession. So it does happen. But, you have to make the choice.
Next question.
So I tend to think sometimes that this type of thing has to do a little bit more with the individual and the self. And I'm curious to know what kind of ideas we have so that we can bring ourselves to a place where we no longer have to talk about equality anymore. And also, if you think it's a great idea to not only implement like STEM programs within the education system, but maybe also a program where we're showing people to a way to reach a more enlightened state sooner in life. And I think, yes.
Okay, very good. Anvesha, would you take that, please?
So I'll give you an example. I spent this afternoon looking at and I'm sure Michelle does this too, looking at our technology consulting recruiting pipeline. Of course, overwhelmingly men. And the challenge we have, and we are structured by industry, so healthcare, financial services, so on and so forth, is how do you make sure that the candidate pool is wide enough, right? So are we going out to a wide variety of schools? Are we looking at the STEM programs that you alluded to? But we've launched something called He for She, which says, let's say there is 100 resumes for a digital position. There should be closer to at least 100 of digital resumes from women as well. That's not the case today. When you look at any company, we have a long way to go. So what is it that's going wrong here? I think we as a, I'm talking about the industry as a whole, haven't necessarily sold what exactly the value is of these consulting roles and how women can have flexibility. So I think it's both up to men and women to be able to sort of do commercials for the consulting industry and give us a better candidate pool. So we have to work together on that.
Thank you, Anusha. And next question, please.
Hello. Everything all you have said is wonderful, and I was wondering if, as women in the professional environment, or rather just people in the environment, do you have any advice for young women and gentlemen who are just now stepping into this type of workplace? Thank you.
Well, I say the same thing every time someone asks me this question, which is be curious. And when someone asked the question earlier of what do you look for in a candidate, curiosity is my number one criteria, and it's learning as much as you possibly can to get that broad range of experiences that'll make you interview well, it'll help you do very well in internships, and it'll make you a great consultant. Because the only way that you can succeed in consulting is to be learning something new every day. So today, find great sources of information, whether it's great podcast or the right people to follow on Twitter or LinkedIn, whatever your social media platform is that you prefer. Just make sure you're always learning something new and tapping into great minds that can give you good knowledge about business today, but as well as things like leadership principles and character values, things like that.
Okay, very good. Next question, please.
Thank you for being here today. I don't think I've ever responded to a panel quick enough to RSVP. So a little context of my question. I'm an older student, and I have a 17-month-old child. So an obstacle that I find in interviews constantly is they ask me if how do I maintain my work without being distracted. And to be completely blunt, when you do have a family, it does require a lot of your attention. I say ruthless scheduling, prioritizing are my answers, but I find that it puts me on the defensive immediately because they're asking a very, very fair question, and I feel like it's a question that is more demonstrated by my work, which I have not yet been able to provide to them. So I would like some perspective on how maybe any of you, if you've dealt with that situation from either side, what you're looking for or how you've dealt with it.
Okay. Liz?
The first advice I would give you is to not feel defensive. So, and here's how I would suggest you handle it. If you get that question, all you need to say really is, you know what, that's actually a really good question. It's absolutely a challenge, and obviously your words, not mine, but it's absolutely a challenge. I love my child. I'm a mom. My child's a priority. But I work every day to make sure that whatever work is on my plate gets done and gets done well. And I find ways that I get help when I need it. And when there's a family priority, I will work with you closely to make sure that the work is getting done while my child is still getting the care, that's required. So just make it a conversation rather than something where you have to defend yourself.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having this panel today. One thing that I did hear, I think from Jennifer that you said, was diversity of thought. And as women in the consulting industry, have any of you advocated for change that wasn't there before you sat at the table?
Jen? How about Anusha?
So let me make sure I got your question right. So you're saying, have we seen a situation where something has been changed because we spoke up or we made it? Okay, yeah. I would say yes, and this has been a recent phenomenon over the last couple of years is we have quite a few clients who have actually started asking for diverse teams. And for a while, we were sort of, how do you staff any project? I mean, you would do that for college projects. You would do it by skill set and knowledge and bring teams together. But this is differently thinking. So you have to think about, this is a royal change management exercise, to think about, are there folks, both from a minority perspective and women perspective, on other teams that can actually be brought together, cross-trained, and use two words here, which are key for workforce of the future: upskilling and reskilling. Okay, so if I am trained in a very technical field, and to add diversity to a pure process redesign project, let's say, I will need to be trained on that business process. And of course, I'll bring value from a tech perspective. So that is, at least I'll speak for, PwC, is a newer way of approaching things, because a lot of times people are very comfortable working within their own teams and staffing accordingly. And now we have to break those barriers and go beyond.
Thank you. Next question.
That was actually a perfect setup for my question. So first, I just wanted to thank you all for speaking today. I think we've all gotten an incredible amount of insight with what you've had to say. And so my question is that diversity is actually it seems like it's playing an increasingly important role for creating solutions in today's world, having diversity of thought and of experience and background on these kind of cross-functional teams. But there's also the potential that having that increased diversity generates more conflict, right? It's just harder whenever you have people with different perspectives to agree on finding a best solution. Even just, our experiences within, classes and projects, when we disagree with each other, it's a lot harder to make forward progress, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not better for it. So my question is, how do you manage the conflict associated with this increase in diversity and background while still arriving at a better solution than just meeting halfway and compromising?
Jen? Yep.
That's a fantastic question, and I don't think there's one answer to it. I think it depends on the situation. I think it depends upon let's talk about problems that you're solving, right, when you're in a team. So it would be, again, so we all work a lot. We're all very passionate about what we do, right? And sometimes we lose ourselves in that, and it's very easy to get, feisty when you're having conversation about the right answer. But I think it's a leader's job to always take a step back and evaluate the solution or the suggestions for what they are. And it takes a special person to be able to, if it's not theirs, to be open to that. So it's a great question, and there's no silver bullet on that one, I don't think.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll just make an announcement. So we will stop taking questions from the audience after these 3 questions. And then I have one final question, and then we will close. I think behind those doors is a lot of good food, good stuff. So, go ahead.
Thank you all for being here. I'm a PhD candidate in marketing, but my background is in cancer biology. So my question is, when firms hire PhDs, what are they looking for?
It's a great point. So I will... Yeah. In the healthcare practice, we actually have physicians, nurses, as well as PhDs, MPH. So a couple of things. Healthcare especially is going through a massive change, and if we can sectorize it, and I can talk for hours on that one topic. But I will tell you that we need thought leaders who are looking at the industry 5-10 years ahead and saying, this is where you should be going. Because it's not just solving the day-to-day tactical problems of where do you want to be 5-10 years from now. So that's how we leverage them. PhDs in general. The other part, which is going into my tech world, is data science, which is a very big one. We have lots of PhDs in that area. Biostatisticians whose world is all about predictive modeling and predicting the future.
Okay. Jen, would you address that one as well?
Sure. So I think the biggest thing, education is the foundation of what we do, right? But it's really important that you can articulate how you apply all of the great learnings that you've had, through your PhD progression, to what the job is that you're applying for, right? That would be the biggest thing. When I do interview PhDs in the org change space, right, IO, psych, whatever it is, and I always just say, so what does that mean for me? And what does that mean for X client or the Y client? And most of the times I get a brilliant answer that I've never thought of, but I'm always going to ask that question.
Thank you. Okay, next question.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is May, and I'd like to thank you guys for coming. And I wanted to ask, you guys all came from different educational backgrounds. for someone who's like not really sure where she wants to go in the business world, like do you have any advice you can give since you guys came into consulting kind of by accident?
Well, I guess what I would answer, at least for my team in technology consulting, is a combination of educational experiences seems to be the best approach. So some of our best hires have been a combination of accounting and MIS, or business and MIS, or some sort of supply chain perhaps, and some combination that gives you business sense, like overall an understanding of the way companies operate with some technical skills. So not necessarily coding or development, but enough technical skills that you can apply this business knowledge in a very practical way.
Okay. Next question, please.
Hi. Thank you for coming again. My name is Navia. I'm a senior studying international supply chain and IT. And to piggyback off of the last question, there's a lot of talk of technical skills and IQ getting you the job, but emotional intelligence and EQ helping you really thrive. And especially considering half of the panel have studies in psychology, and all of the panel having quite a bit of tenure in the field, I was wondering what makes, with emotional intelligence considered, what makes a star consultant in the grand scheme of things for the long term?
It's a really good question. And it's interesting because I work a lot with technical leaders in the work that I do. And so they're not consultants, but they are experts in the world of technology across a variety of industries. And the things that we primarily work on is helping them work better with other people. And that's where EQ really comes in, right? Really understanding things from another person's point of view, being able to make a personal connection, listening well to what other people have to say, having empathy. It's the emotional ability to work well in a workspace that really will make a consultant extremely successful, because it's all about relationships. If you can form relationships and you can learn quickly about your client's problems and create a solution that they can implement, you'll be really successful.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you to the audience for participating. We do have one last question, and it's for Liz. And the question is, what got you into starting your own consulting company?
Well, I've almost always worked for myself. When I first started in my career, there were maybe 5 years or so that I worked for somebody else. I was a school psychologist for a number of years, and then I worked in somebody else's private practice, and I very quickly learned that I'm an entrepreneur. You need to know who you are, and you need to know what atmosphere you work best in. And although I love working with people, and I have wonderful colleagues, and I have great mentors, and so forth, I really like calling my own shots in my own business. And so for me, it was really almost the only path I could take. It's risky in some ways. If you start your own company, you are the one totally responsible for business development and maintaining the income that comes in. So there are some risks that come with it. But if you have threshold for risk and you kind of like to be your own boss, you might find that that's the path for you as well.
Excellent. So that concludes the questions, but I would like to have Michelle Pangestu please come up to the podium. Michelle is the co-president of the Women's Entrepreneurial Organization. So please come up, because I believe you have something for our panelists. Where are the gifts? Wait, you were supposed to come up with the gifts, right? Later? Okay, all right, it's all yours.
One more thing real quick. Sorry, I just have a little addendum to my comment about the programs that you're looking at. You have a great management consulting program here, so take advantage of that. I forget sometimes when I'm talking generally about the background that you have. This is a really unique opportunity, and the ability to learn not just technical and business skills, but consulting skills is something we typically have to provide once you become an employee. So the fact that you have some of this opportunity earlier on is just really phenomenal. So thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michelle Pangestu, and I'm the co-president of the Women's Entrepreneur Organization. On behalf of my organization and also the Temple Consulting Club, we would like to thank these wonderful speakers for being with us today and sharing their stories. Their success stories are such an inspiration to me, and I'm sure that many of us here share the same sentiment. Okay. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the different groups of people that have contributed to the success of this event. First, thank you so much to Professor Gunther for being an awesome moderator and for being very involved and flexible throughout the entire process. Thank you to the Fox School of Business for providing different avenues for us students to grow outside of the classroom. Thank you to the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Institute, especially to Lindsay Cork, who has helped us with planning and executing this event, and also to Alan Weber, who has been very willing to sponsor this event. Thank you to Temple University Management Consulting Program, to Professor Anthony Seaton, who has provided valuable advice and guidance, and also for providing sponsorship that has made this event possible. Also, thank you so much to the board members of Temple Consulting Club, Women's Entrepreneurial Organization, and Entrepreneurial Student Association for your relentless and hard work. Your work ethics inspire me, and I couldn't be more grateful to have such strong teams collaborating together. And lastly, thank you to you all for making the time on a Friday evening to come and join us today. Without your support, this event wouldn't have been possible, so thank you very much. Moving forward, we are hoping to see you at our future events, both Temple Consulting Club and Women's Entrepreneur Organization. Please feel free to talk to any of us about our future events or ways to get more involved as we work together to build a collaborative and empowering Temple community. And also, don't forget to check out the expo tables that we have there to learn more about the different companies that are here and also about different programs that Temple has to offer. Lastly, the time that you guys are waiting for, please join us for reception, a networking reception and refreshments, and have a safe journey home. Thank you very much.